if you only understand 3 or 4 important tools, that might be enough for your music.
Your demo before the final recording should already sound like a song, like something that you would not freak out if it would be released,
What matters most? What connects with you in a song? And what helps you make the mixing process easier if you do it right from the start? The star is the melody and the lyric, the bass drum, the bass line, the guitar riff, whatever is the focal point. But the rest is just ways to accomplish that.
It's so simple, but it doesn't sound good when you play it.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
Let's address 2 very common things that we get often from the people listening to this or from the people in our community. So whenever somebody joins our Facebook group, for example, or when they sign up for the emails that we send out every week, we ask a question. And that question is, what are you struggling with the most? We do that because we want to figure out what you're struggling with so that we can help you fix it and send you valuable things to help. Now, the 2 things that we get most often by far are, first of all, they think that they're struggling with mixing, or they tell us that they're struggling because they are missing some piece of equipment, some plugin, or because they don't understand the plugin or the equipment. Like, it's either this technical thing, like I don't have the gear, I don't understand it, how it works, or it's I don't know how to mix. Those are like 90% of all the answers to this question. What are you struggling with? We want to make this episode today because I don't think that this is true for most people. And I want to hear Manel's opinion on this, of course, as well. I think I understand why people are answering like that, but I think that the mixes and the gear are not the biggest problem for most people. And I also understand though why they say they struggle with it. So anyway, this is what we're going to be doing today. My name is Benedikt Hein. I'm a mixing engineer. I run a mixing studio called Outback Recordings. We mix a ton of songs, hundreds of them every single year here at this studio. I've been doing that full time for well over a decade now, about 15 years or so. And we've also built this platform called the Self-Recording Band, where we've helped countless people record themselves, make more exciting sounding records at their jam spaces and home studios. And we do that through this podcast, through a Facebook community, through free stuff that we send out, through a coaching program that we have, and through online courses. This podcast, I'm not just doing by myself. I'm here joined by my friend and co-host Manel Espinosa Berenguer. Hello, Manel. So good to have you.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here again. And today I'm even happier because today I'm going to the opera.
To the opera?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it, and I think it's the first time ever that I go to a classical proper opera. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's actually funny that I reacted like this to that, because it shouldn't be weird or funny if you go to the opera. But honestly, although we spend every day in the music world, I don't know many people who have ever been to an opera, in our world at least, which maybe we should do that more often.
Yeah, me neither. And yeah, I mean, I like classical music, but I'm not an expert at all. But I've been looking for this kind of opportunity, and a friend of mine got me a ticket. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome, and I think it's one of the early Mozart operas. So yeah, I'll let you know next week.
Let me know how that went and how that was. Like, that's cool for sure. Is there any, like, I don't know, like, I don't know anything about opera really, but like, are there any, whatever, do you have to dress a certain way or behave a certain way, do certain things? Are there any like cultural things around the opera thing in Spain? Maybe that's also different from location to location.
I have no idea. I guess at this point, there's nothing like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, cool. That's great news. That's exciting for sure. Yeah. Very impressive, I think, to see that. Yeah, cool.
You didn't expect it, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't expect that at all. That's great news, though. Cool. What are you doing at the moment, Manel? Any cool projects you're working on? Just tell people a little bit about your bright background or what you're currently doing, especially since you haven't been on this podcast for that long.
Well, as you know, I'm a music producer from Spain, and I'm working on my own album, which I've been working for years, and I had to mix again due to this guy Benedict, who showed me the right way to mix it.
Showed you the light.
But we are getting to the end of it. I only have like 2 or 3 more songs left to finish the album finally. And then what I mostly do is work with other artists in their songs. I help them with like mostly with the production and mixing, obviously, but also a little bit with songwriting, depending on their experience and depending on also in how much they want to be helped with the songwriting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm working with Ola Bird, which is an amazing artist from Poland, and a couple more artists here from Spain and Venezuela, or some of them are from Venezuela but live in Spain. And yeah, just having fun with new songs and projects.
That's great. That's awesome. Love to hear that. Well, I think this is a very good episode today for us having a discussion because it covers both like the mixing and the technical aspect, which is my sort of thing that I do every single day, but it also covers, the other side of it, and people are not even really aware that it does. But we're gonna like the creative stuff and the songs and all of that. So we get into this. So I think I mentioned it before. I understand why people are answering like that, because I remember what it was like for me in the beginning too. Like first of all, I was looking at all the knobs and the plugins and the gear, and I was like, "What the hell is that? And how does it work? And what do I need to touch to make it sound amazing?" Right? And so I always like people think that once you understand it technically, or that there's some sort of setting that you need to do, and then it sounds great. We'll get to that. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. And the other thing is that they think that the bulk of the sound and what comes out of the speakers and whether or not it sounds professional and resonates with people happens in the mixing phase. And yes, you can do a lot in the mix, but only so much on the other hand. And I think that it's also not really where the magic happens. So let's dive into this. I think, how do you feel about the whole technical side? I mean, a certain level is required, of course. I understand that why people are asking this question or saying that, but and I think a certain level of understanding is necessary. But how do you see it all? That whole that whole angle that people are coming from it at like, I have a bunch of knobs in front of me and I want to know what I need to turn to make it sound cool.
Well, I think that some of the technical things, like especially the basic technical things, are necessary, like setting up your gain properly, both for your instrument and for your microphone, and being able to, maybe like move around things in your room to evade having a lot of room in your microphone, especially if you're recording vocals and stuff like that. But from there, all the other stuff, I think it's kind of like optional, because like for example, you can spend a lot of time working on your guitar tone or whatever, which is, you can have fun doing that and that. But that's not gonna determine, I think, the quality of your recording. Because it can have some sort of impact, yes. But like, look at, I don't know, I was thinking about the Saint Danger album with the sound of the drums.
Yep.
Of course, it can have an impact. But before that, there's the playing. Like, if you are not able to play consistent riffs, it doesn't matter if you have the rectifier or whatever with whatever, it's not going to sound good anyways. So
yes, I totally agree. So that's one perspective, and I think it's true. And that is, I thought about that a lot when I thought about the whole mixing topic. Like when people say mixing is the problem, and I'm like, it's probably earlier. It starts earlier than that. But when it comes to the tech that I just mentioned, like the I don't have the gear, or I don't understand the gear, that kind of thing, I agree with you that also the songs and the playing and all of that is so much more important than the gear. But what I mean is, like, what I also think is that this is just a very like superficial way of thinking about the gear, and it's understandable because they don't know any better yet, so that's fine. But like, to me, the gear is just tools. It's necessary, but it's tools, and it doesn't matter like how to turn the knobs or which setting exactly to dial in is not the right question to ask. It's like, the question to ask is, what do I want to come out of the speakers? How is that supposed to feel? Versus what it is sounding like right now. What's the difference between my ideal sound that I have in my head and what I'm hearing currently? And then how do I get there? And it doesn't really matter which tool you use, or it's not about like the numbers or whatever the knobs say on the tool. It's about understanding when and why to do these things. It's not that there's this one setting that you always put on vocals, or it's not that you have to have this one piece of gear that makes everything better. It's all just tools, and it all starts with, what do I want? Why do I want it? When do I apply it? And if you can answer that question, then you can just pick from any of those tools, and it's easy to learn, like to read a manual and to just quickly understand what the things do. But like, it's much harder or much more important to figure out why you even want to use it, and what this type of gear actually is, and why you would want this and when you would want this, than it is which of those to choose. And that is kind of the angle that I want to address this from. And like, and also, if you don't have the gear and you think that this is what's holding you back, which is what a lot of people are putting in as an answer there, I don't think you should let that hold you back, because yes, a certain minimum is required, but that minimum is pretty low these days. We've covered that on many episodes. And a lot of people say they don't have money for proper gear, but then when you dig deeper and ask questions, you'll figure out that they are spending a lot of money already just on the wrong things. They might have, they might buy an expensive preamp but they're still on like a very limited entry-level version of a DAW. Or they might buy whatever they read online or was recommended to them, instead of getting a better instrument or a different microphone. Or you typically just use a very limited number of decent pieces to get started, and you shouldn't let that hold you back. And even if you can't afford anything and all you have is like the cheapest recording bundle with a 2-channel interface and whatever mic came with it and the limited version of Ableton or whatever they put into that, even that is not an excuse, because you can still have great songs, you can still play us in an awesome way, you can put the mic in the right spot, you can do a few things about your room, and then you're going to have something recorded that is already sounding more exciting and better than most people's mixes. And so the gear should not hold you back. Yeah. Although I love gear and I understand they can make things better, but it should not hold you back. And understanding it technically is only a small part of it. It's much more important to understand why you want to compress, for example, and if you even want to compress.
So I think we could say that it's going to have like the person who has entry-level gear but knows how to use it is going to have a better result than someone who has the best of the best but doesn't know how to use it.
Yes, but with the how to use it, again, this is the kind of confusing part for people probably. You're totally right, but I don't think it matters so much to understand every single technical detail or, the way that people typically look at gear. It's more like when to use it even, and like why, and which things not to use can often be the better question. It's like you might, because in your DAW you have like, I don't know, even the stock plugins, you might have 50 different plugins. Doesn't mean you have to put all 50 of them on every single channel. Knowing what not to use and when to address certain things, that's like the really critical thing. And then you'll figure out that if you only understand 3 or 4 important tools, that might be enough for your music. I bet if you just understand, like you said, basics of gain staging, mic positioning, a little bit about your room, and then when it comes to gear, and then playing, of course, but when it comes to gear, if you understand an EQ, a compressor, panning, and gain staging, that will lead to a pretty decent mix. And maybe you add in a reverb or a delay, and you're pretty much already there. The rest is, the icing on the cake, sort of. But I think you get the idea. So don't let the gear hold you back, and don't think that this is what is limiting you, and don't think that you just need a magic template or setting or preset, or you need to understand what all these knobs do in order to make great sounding music. That is going to lead you down the wrong path. It's not how it works. And even though we use templates and presets, they're just starting points. We always react to the song. We always react in the context of the song, in the mix, and we can immediately intuitively change any of those settings to serve the song. And if you only learn certain settings and try to recreate that or mimic it, but you don't understand the why behind it, then you can apply those presets. But if they don't work, you're going to be stuck. You don't know how to change it. You don't know what to do about it. And then you have to live with those mediocre results.
Yeah, I think you touched on the key here, which is that when we talk about how to use the gear, the how to use the gear is not in the gear itself.
Yes,
it's in your
that's it.
brain.
That's
you
it.
know?
Yes.
It's like on you knowing what do you need, like in every moment, and you knowing how to prioritize different elements on the songs and stuff like that, more than in the object itself,
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. They are just tools. You know what you want, what the problem is, and then because you've learned the few tools that you really need, you know exactly which one to reach for and to use. It's, yeah, totally. Cool. The other part of it, that's where the creative side and the mix, not the mixing, but the recording, like what happens in front of the mic, basically, like the song, the playing, the arrangement, all of that becomes so much more important. And that is the whole, like the other question that people are giving, or the other answer that people are making to this question is, I think I struggle with mixing, or mixing is my biggest problem. And they would even say, a lot of people, the majority of them actually, even say, I think I can record really good tracks, but I just can't mix. And my mixes always suck. And if I talk to them on like our coaching calls, for example, like when we do free clarity calls to figure out if our program is a great fit, I always ask these questions and I want to figure out what they're struggling with. And I listen to their music and they would tell me, yeah, I've been recording for a while now and I get decent recordings, but for whatever reason, I'm never happy with my mixes. And then almost guaranteed every time I listen to those songs, I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but with those recordings and those songs, you'll always be fighting your recordings. It's not really just a mixing problem. It starts way earlier. And people have a hard time believing that because they think you put a microphone in front of something, you play, and that's the recording. But then turns out things can be out of tune, out of time. The arrangement cannot be ideal. Maybe the song itself is just not strong. Maybe there are room problems. Maybe there's an engineering problem. Maybe they've dialed in the amp totally the wrong way. They put the mics on the drums in a weird way. All kinds of things can go wrong. People don't realize, and they think you do all of that in the mix. So you work with a lot of artists one-on-one and help them, get it right from the start. Manel, what do you think matters, or what does, in your opinion, to you personally, what matters most? What connects with you in a song, and what helps you make the mixing process easier if you do it right from the start?
Well, one of the things that I talk to them every time, and I insist a lot on this, and some of them still don't fully believe in that, is that I would say like 80% of the time when you write a song, the song is not in the right key for your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
good point.
Because like you write it, like you use chords that you're comfortable with because you don't know other chords or whatever, and you make the melody and all that. But it's worth it. Like I would say every time, to experiment with, the same song in different keys, because you're going to find places where your voice sounds more interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. And also, with this, you don't really need to decide from the very beginning. You can kind of experiment with this, but it's the tempo of the song. Like, it's very important to have a clear idea of how fast your song is gonna go, right?
Yeah.
So those are the key things that I would say first, but also the things like the structure of the song, or like does it make sense to start with the chorus this time for whatever reason, or maybe not, or because people normally when they write, they just write verse, chorus, but
Yeah.
It can be different sometimes, and it's nice. So
Yeah, totally. And this wasn't even what I expected you to say first, but it makes so much sense. That it's literally like the key of the song, the tempo. It sounds so obvious, but how many of you, if you're honest, like you're listening now, how many of you have really thought about this ever? Because usually it's exactly what you just said, Manil. We sit down and because we can play certain chords, or we just like certain chords, certain chord progressions. We start, if you write songs on the guitar, we typically start with strumming certain chord progressions that we like, or we come up with something that just sounds good and we don't even think about the key. And then that's the song, and then we try to find a melody to that and we try to sing that. But that is pretty almost guaranteed it's not going to be the ideal key for your voice. And then you would have to take that song but transpose it, so you could use a capo on the guitar, or you can tune the guitar differently, or whatever, or change the chords, or get help with that. But like, yeah, you're totally right. We're never starting in our ideal range and then find the chords in there, basically. Yeah, totally.
I think, you listening to us, you should spend way more time than you think trying different keys, because you'll discover lots of things. It is true also that for I guess we have a lot of rock and roll, metal listeners here, and those genres rely a lot on open strings for the heavy stuff, and so if you have to change the key, it can be a problem. And maybe sometimes the only solution that you have is to change the tuning of the guitars, which it can be a pain if you have to change it for every song or whatever. But also, if you experiment with the key changes and all that, you'll probably find different ways to play the same things. And just because you're playing in parts of the guitar that you're not used to play, you'll find different voicings and things that will be different. So that's also interesting.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah, tempo is another big one. I totally agree with that as well. It makes the song feel drastically different, and it doesn't even have to be a static tempo. So it all starts with figuring out a tempo and then trying if a little faster or slower might work better. But I've worked with plenty, even like in genres like punk rock or pretty simple rock, 3-chord rock music, for lack of a better term. But even there, it often made sense to, when I still did full production, we often did 3 dBs up in a certain part, not dBs, like 3 BPMs up in a certain part that needed a little more energy, a little more drive, and then maybe we went down a couple of BPM in a breakdown that was supposed to feel a little laid back and more dragging, rather than rushing. Maybe we changed the tempo just for a certain drum fill. Sometimes when a drummer does like a triplet fill that's supposed to feel like it's slowing down a bit, we actually made that slow down and then turn back to normal. So little things like that and building a tempo map like that can totally change the feel of a song. And then overall, you'd be surprised how much of a difference 2 or 3 BPMs can make for a song in like overall how it feels and how you perform to it. So it's worth doing that more. But yeah, in general, all of those things are just part of songwriting. And then part of the performance and all that, and it's so much more important to do that first than to start immediately by worrying about the mixing decisions. So, and then not to speak of mic positioning in the room and all those things that happen in front of the mic. So please trust us there. Please believe us there that we've worked with a lot of artists, and most of the time they are fighting their own recordings. And when I mix for people, then I try to avoid that and help them get it right from the start. But if I can't do that, if they've done it themselves already, or if they've worked with someone else and they cut corners somewhere, they didn't take it too seriously, then sometimes I have to fight their recordings. And yes, there are ways to deal with all of that, but it's so much better when something comes in that already just sounds good. And I'm like, yes, somebody made production decisions here. Somebody had a vision. Somebody was bold enough to do these things. They took it seriously. They didn't cut corners. And Thomas and I here at the studio, when we get something like that, it's so much fun because both of us, we immediately know, like we pull up we pull in the tracks into our session. Thomas is prepping the mixing session. We push up faders, and immediately it sounds like a song. It's like it makes you smile because you just find volumes and it just sounds awesome. And then I'm looking forward to mixing it because it can only get better. And my job is not to ruin it in the mix versus something where you pull in the tracks, you push up faders and you're like, what am I listening to? Let me search for the music in there. It's like, so it really is like that. And so please don't fight your own recordings and get it right from the start, and you'll be amazed how much easier mixing becomes and how much less you need to solve problems and do all these things. And the mixing also becomes so much more fun because it's more about making something that's already good sound even better and enhance things, and you don't need to correct as much. It's less technical, it's more intuitive, more creative. So please take that seriously. And a part of that just comes from, I think, the fact that many people have never experienced a fully professional record making process. Like if you've never been to a professional studio to make a record, maybe you're not aware how much effort goes into everything before the mix happens. If you've ever been to a session like that, though, on a decent budget in a good studio with good people, you'll know that first of all, there's pre-production where the producer would spend weeks with you working on the demos before you even go to the studio. Then you would do the setup at the studio, the sound check, the instrument setup, finding the right mics, putting them in the right places, all the stuff in front of the mic. Then there would be the playing where they would push and guide you and help you capture the best possible takes. And that can be like a pretty intense experience for someone who's never done that before, because good producers, they will not let you out of the studio until you nail that take, and if you can't, maybe someone else will play it, but it has to be the perfect, end result. And like if you've ever gone through that process, then you know how much effort goes into this if you do it correctly. And if you haven't, it is easy to think that, you put a mic in front of something, you hit record, and then you spend all the time mixing, trying to make it sound good. So that's part of it, and I totally understand that. And the other part might be that if you are listening to or watching a lot of content and you're listening to people talk about making records that primarily do electronic music, for example, then it's also the writing, performing, arranging, and mixing kind of becomes one process, and everything happens in the DAW. And this can lead you to think that this is how sound is created, but it's not necessarily true for all genres. And even the electronic music producers, a lot of what you don't see in those when they talk about it, and especially the ones that are really good, not just a YouTuber that's ever made a record, they will also have these processes. Like if you listen to our interview with Giulia Borelli, for example, she mixes a lot of electronic music. She said she loves it when a producer has made decisions and actually created sounds and built an arrangement that works and all that. And then they hand it off to a mixing engineer, and then she doesn't have to do the production in the mix. It's like two different parts of the process. So just please believe us when we tell you it is how really good artists and producers still make records every single day. It is how your favorite records have been made. And please take that seriously. And if you're doing everything on your own, still try to separate these parts of the process. And if you have limited time, especially, put the majority of your effort into everything that happens before you mix. That's my long.
Yeah. So the point is that your demo before the final recording should already sound like a song, like something that you would not freak out if it would be released,
Yes. Oh man, I love that. There is and very good mixers and producers would tell you the same thing. One of the Lord LG brothers said this once, maybe both. Chris and Tom Lord LG. They said, if you make a record like even the rough mix while you're recording it, if you record something and you immediately play it back to the artist, you better make it sound like a record. Like it's not mixed yet. It's just what you've been recording in the room. But if you play that back to the artist or the label or whoever, you don't want to be ashamed of that. Like you just said, you want to be proud of that, and it should sound like a record. And that is the goal always. And even the demo before you go into the studio, I've heard pre-production from good people, from good artists and producers, where I'm like, they haven't even started recording and it already sounds phenomenal. And you are one of these, Manel, by the way. Sometimes when you say, hey, new demo for this song, I commented on one of your recent demos, and I'm like, man, your demos sound, finished now. That's awesome. That's the goal. That's what you want.
Yeah. So like mixing is not fixing.
Yeah. Oh.
Mixing is enhancing
Yeah.
the qualities that the song already has.
Yes. Yes. Then back to my question earlier that I gave you, Manel. What is it that you told us what matters or what you would do with an artist, like things like key and tempo and all that. But you as a music fan, as a listener, or also from the producer's perspective, what is it that resonates with you when you listen to music? What really matters to you personally? What do you enjoy when you listen to music?
I think what makes me full of joy the most is the melody. Mm-hmm. Like when I hear cool melodies, I'm also a kind of like a harmony freak. So when I hear different things, that makes me lift, but in general, I think also like if the chorus needs to have impact, I want to feel that impact, the contrast between different sections, that a song is, it's like a trip, and it has to bring you to different places.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
That's what I would say. Maybe it's a little bit abstract.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, I love that. And I bet if you went...
What about you?
Okay, for me, it's the melody. Especially, it's pretty similar to what you said in terms of melody. I like vocal stacks, vocal arrangements if they're good, like those harmonies, and I just love good vocal arrangements. I like catchy songs. Although I have this heavy music background, I really like catchy songs or catchy riffs, like things that are memorable and just that I don't know. The other thing is I really like groove. That was always very important for me. I like rhythm. I like groove. And that's maybe the reason why I like both heavy guitar music, but also, for example, I love hip hop and rap because both of them have very important rhythmical elements that I just like. I'm one of those people that can never sit still. I always drum and I always have a rhythm or groove in my mind. And if I can't drum in a quiet room, I grind my teeth to a rhythm or something. I just have to do something. So groove is very, very important. Melody and groove, two most important things. And I like interesting textures. And this is probably something I can only put into words now because I have the technical knowledge. But as a music fan, I would have probably not been able to put my finger on it, but I've always liked it. And that is when things sound interesting and unique. Like when a good melody is cool, but a good melody is even cooler if it has an interesting sound that I haven't heard before that way. That might be very aggressive or very smooth, very dark, very distorted. I don't know. For example, I've always, even before I knew how it was done, if I heard, let's say, a Hammond or a Rhodes piano or something, some keys like that, I just heard keys, and yes, that's cool if it works, but whatever. But as soon as they were slightly crackling, distorted, and had a cool vibe to them, I liked them much, much more for whatever reason. If there is a synthesizer that can sound pretty plasticky, and I'm not really, oftentimes I'm not a big fan of some of the electronic elements in music, but if that's a really cool distorted synth line or a very massive bass that is just like cool synth sounds like that don't sound like plastic, I'm all for that. I love that. So cool, interesting textures is what I like. Layers of depth and all that, but in groove and melody, those are the things. I bet though, if you went outside now and asked a group of strangers on the street, just regular people, you just walk up to them and you ask them, what do you like in a song, or what makes a song resonate with you? I think most people will say something like melody, lyrics, groove, simple things like that. Yeah. And it will take quite a long time for you to find anyone who would say, I like when there are really punchy transients or like a low noise floor because I can't stand if I hear this hiss on the recording, or, if the low mid-range is really cluttered, I don't like that. Like, give me something with a cleaned up 300 hertz, whatever. Nobody will say things like that. People say very clear things that they like or dislike about music, and all those other things are just tools to make that happen. So if someone says, or if you know that the melody and the lyrics are the most important thing for most people, maybe it makes sense, to make mixing and recording and engineering and writing decisions that enhance the melody, that put it in the spotlight, that make it shine, that make it work even better, that support the melody. And all those tools are just tools to achieve that. So if you use an EQ to scoop out some mid-range of a guitar, you probably do that to make more space for the vocals in there. If you clean up the low mid-range and the bass, the low end, it's probably so that you have a clearer bass line and a kick that can really thump and drive the song because it's not masked by all this other crap around it. So all those things we do just serve whatever's the most important aspect of the mix. And it's not, those things themselves are not the stars, not the spotlight. They are just tools. The star is the melody and the lyric, the bass drum, the bass line, the guitar riff, whatever is the focal point. But the rest is just ways to accomplish that. And I think we should keep that in mind. And when people get into music production, all of a sudden they switch from being the listener that matters, that cares about the lyrics and the melody. They switch to someone who just cares about frequencies and thresholds and attack and release. And it's not even about the music anymore so much. But it is always. It's just tools. So
yeah. So I think it's things that makes us feel things and things that make us move. And that's it. All the other stuff, it's fun, but it's not important.
Yeah, exactly. And so I hope this is interesting to you, and maybe it gives you a little bit of a different perspective. And when you are struggling next time and you sit down and you're like, well, that's all good, but I still can't get my stuff to sound right, then please think about what we said in this episode. Maybe don't make it as hard for you. Strip it down to the essentials. Maybe start by, okay, do I really like the tone of my vocal here? Do I really like the melody that I've written? Is the groove good? Do I like all those source tones, the instruments I've chosen? And once that is a clear yes, then maybe go to, how does my room sound? Do I hear a lot of echo that's annoying? Do I get out of my room and the equipment that I have just with a blank recording? Does that sound reasonable? Then go to, how do I play? Is it sloppy? Is it tight? Do I have to practice a little more? Do I have to let someone else play a certain instrument because I cannot do it really well? Go through all these steps one at a time, and you'll have plenty to do until you even get to the gear. And then once you get to the gear, and then just ask yourself, at what level am I recording this? Okay, this is reasonable now. All the things in front of the mic are great, and I'm recording without clipping. Great. Now listen back to everything you've recorded and question the arrangement again. Do we really need all these layers? Do we need some more layers? What do my favorite artists do? Listen to references. Do they have a guitar left and right, or is it just one in the middle? Do they have doubles and harmonies, or do you only hear one vocal? Is there a synth in the background? Is there, listen to all these layers and see if any of that makes sense for your song. You don't have to copy that, but just in general, get all of that right. And then once that is a clear yes, then you can start worrying about, okay, can I make it even better now if I EQ this, if I clean it up, if I compress it, make it more solid? Then you get into mixing territory. But until that is done and perfect, don't even think about these other things, because that is really what matters most. And so, it makes it actually simpler for you, because that means you can accomplish so much without having to worry about buying new plugins or learning complex techniques, just by improving those simple things. So I really hope this is not confusing but helpful. And if you want personal help with all of this, you can just reach out to us. Manel is happy to talk to you about, helping you produce something and helping you with the writing, arranging, and all of that, and even all the way to the finished product. He will definitely help you do that as a producer. I can definitely take the mixing off your plate if you say, well, I can get to the mixing, but then I just don't know. I let someone else mix this. Perfect. I love that. Do the best with all the stuff we gave you now, and then let someone else mix. Or if you want to tackle it all yourself, including the mix, then apply for our mentoring program, where I can work one-on-one with you, and you do all the work, but I guide you through it. I give you feedback and clear next steps at all times, and then we can walk you through it all, and you can learn it yourself. So you have all those different options. Reach out to us at any time. And Manel, anything else to add to this?
No. Well, yes.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I said no, but I was going to say something. So
yeah, absolutely. We have time. Go ahead.
One thing that opened my eyes a while ago is that I worked with other producers,
Yes.
And they easily made me feel like a really bad guitar player. But in a good way, because they were respectful. But I knew, like, oh, I thought, I was the metal guy who could play super fast. But then when you had to play 3 chords, you cannot make them sound cool, So I think it's a good idea to work with a producer, at least for a while, and, get your ego down a little bit and work on those things.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we need to, face reality there and also be like, maybe for some people, the reason why they don't go to a studio is because they don't want that, because they know that this is going to happen. For some people, it's money, it's budget. For some people, it's they want the creative control. But I know for sure that there are some people who avoid the professional help because they don't want to hear that their song or their playing sucks.
Yeah.
And like if you're also not just a good producer, but a good person, you wouldn't be like, hey, your song sucks. You would say that differently, and you would always find the good stuff in there, and you would be encouraging and all that. But at the end of the day, people want to avoid that. And I get it. But it is often the only thing that helps you. I totally agree with you, Manel. And we had very painful experiences there ourselves too. Like I remember, I don't know what happened in your case when you said it made you a better guitar player or realized that you are not a good guitar player at this moment. But like in our case, it happened then that, so I can't really say in my case, like a band that I was a part in before I joined this band, I should say that they went to a studio, and the songs and everything were great, but the drummer, and they had high expectations and all that, and at the end of it all, it also turns out the record also turned out great. But the first time they got into the studio, it turned out that the drummer was just not good enough at this moment. Like he was a good drummer, but he hadn't practiced well enough, and it wasn't tight enough for that kind of technical things that they were trying to play. And the producer really was just like, hey, I think you should go home, practice, and then come back later. This doesn't make sense now. And as heartbreaking as it is, and you go in, you're excited about the session, and then you're told you can't do it. It was what was necessary, because they went home, he practiced like crazy, and the next time he came in prepared, and then the record just turned out absolutely fantastic. So, but just from within the band, nobody had told him and nobody noticed. Like everyone thought this was good enough until they got the reality check and figured, oh man, like, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've all been there, Benedict wasn't born with a guitar in his hands,
Definitely not.
So, so we've had those moments, and I think it's almost impossible to realize these things when you're not there, because you just cannot see that until someone who is there already tells you, hey, look, you see these 3 chords you're playing, the 3 most basic chords, the A, D, and whatever, E. It's so simple, but it doesn't sound good when you play it. So, yeah, maybe you're just pressing the strings too hard or whatever,
But I love this sentence, like, it's so simple, but it doesn't sound good when you play it. That's going to be my line from now when I work with, like that chord progression. It's so simple, but it doesn't sound good when you play it.
Yeah, but the thing is that then I could play, I don't know, like Master of Puppets. I could play that and it sounded fine. But
yes, I know
then
what you're talking
you
about.
play an AC/DC riff, which should be easier technically, but you just don't make it sound right. Because when you're in the studio, you can hear more things.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I mean, that's only an example, but
yeah, absolutely love that. It's funny how sometimes the simpler, quote unquote, simpler things are actually harder to play also. It's like, I had this so many times that people would talk about, a classic thing, almost like a running gag that we have sometimes, is that when drummers or people in general say that playing drums, like playing AC/DC drums or AC/DC songs on drums, is like so simple because it's just, very simple groove. Try and play like Back in Black that way, like that it feels that way and sounds that way. Like it is so freaking hard to do. And but people think it is the easiest thing ever, right? To play that. It's not, definitely not. There is so much like there's a lot of technical faster stuff that's way easier to play than playing that in that certain way. Same is true with guitar riffs and stuff. Like I've had some almost traumatic experiences in the studio as well. We were all still friends and it turned out great. But like I had some guitar players here at the studio who could do crazy solos and technical things, and it would be awesome. And they would play a solo 10 times, shred every single time, and we could use all of them. They would just be amazing and improvised, but always perfect. And then they were supposed to play a simple rhythm riff, just some 8 notes or quarter notes palm mutes, and everything would fall apart completely, as if they never played guitar almost, compared to like the solo, right?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
The thing is that with slower tempos, you have a lot of time between every beat to mess it up.
Yes,
So
that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but people that are not aware, they you practice this crazy thing and you're so proud that you can finally play that, or you can do that crazy drum fill and the double kick and kind of, so you just assume you can also do the simple stuff. But if you never practice it the same way, chances are you can't. And so it's important to have these experiences either with a professional or just by practicing a lot, focusing on the right things, to nail all of that, because that is ultimately what matters most in a song. Anyway, I think you get the idea by now, but I love those things that you added there, Manel. It's so important for people to know. And it's also, I think it's really freeing and cool to know that you can do so much just by becoming a better player, a musician, and putting the mics in the right places in your room without having to buy anything, without having to learn any crazy technical stuff. You can completely transform your results just by doing that.
yeah, like
yeah, it's awesome. Cool. All right, so final question here for the listeners. We will get back to, like I promised, to actionable, this is also an actionable, very important episode, but we'll get back to like audio examples and, showing you certain things, how to achieve certain sounds and all that. If you have anything that's especially like interesting to you that you want to hear on the show that you want us to cover, please let us know. Please send us an email, podcast@theselfrecordingband.com, and just tell us, hey, I would love to hear the difference between this or that. And I would love to hear how to dial in this or that or whatever. Like if you have specific things that you would want us to cover on the show, tell us. Maybe you already have a favorite episode that we've already done, but we haven't done it with audio examples yet. Also let us know. And then we'll make sure to cover that again, do some listening exercises, show you exactly what it sounds like, what the AB is. So we are looking forward to your input there. And thank you for listening. See you next week.
goodbye.